Good morning on this fine, wet Welsh day. However, Yorkshireman, now living in Wales, still here, still happy, living in Wales. And again, I need to start off with the normal stuff. Good morning, Comrade Gel. Hope everything is going okay and you are working hard for the state of the party. So, today, comrades, I will be focusing on one charity which for some reason most people in Wales are really fond of. That's me being sarcastic, just in case you're not clear. Sustrans, we love them to death. My role in all of this is I actually am not keen on this charity, and I'll tell you briefly why. They add no value, there's no demand what they do. In addition to that, the tipping point for me is when I then managed to find out that they got given £250,000 of public money, our money, your money, not their money, and out of that £250,000 they paid themselves and their staff £187,000 and a few pence, give or take. So, given that I know what they do and the amount of money they do, now if we gave them £1 million, I somewhat believe that with 3/4 of that would go to them. And whatever's left over, well, they might build something which no one wants and no one will use because there is no use, no demand for it. So, I'm going to take you through the process of me trying to hold them to account and get information from them. Now, so, let's go back to my first one, and this is remind you of who my 5 are. So I then sent them an email, and it was, as you can see, public funding of unelected charities. And what I actually did on that is the email is designed, and I sent this 7th of May, and I sent it to them all. Now I didn't bother with Liv Saville Roberts because she'll say it's nothing to do with her. And I just pointed out to them that the directors, 6, 14 unelected, so in theory 20 unelected people, and as you can see on the second blue arrow, these 20 seem to control all the elected 60 members of the Senate. Now, to me, that is literally how it happens. And I've also said that these 20 people, unelected, are living the dream, cycling, walking, and I've looked at their website, some run and some swim. Yet all they need to do, because I don't think most of them don't live in Wales, they make our life miserable, cost us money, because people are getting fined now for doing, wait on, 26 miles an hour, they're getting fined, and looking at all the social media, people are now saying not coming back to Wales, right? I make it really clear, they're in charge, so you might think that would get them interested. And as you can see, my email then goes on to say, we have got no voice at all, the Welsh people. And then as you go through, I asked them for some documents which I'm unable to locate. So, could you send me the documents, right? And I then finish off thinking this might motivate him, is the unelected charities are the only ones with the power in Wales and effectively running the show, not the Welsh Government as advertised. No, that didn't really make any difference to them. However, I got one reply from Mabon, so credit for that. Again, which goes a normal, not in government, been through this, even he says we've been through this. Right, he doesn't have a say over it. Now, again, but what he says, he shares my concerns. Right, so we've got a starter for 10, something we can both agree on, which I'm happy about. Anyway, moving on. At that point, 17th of July 2024, I test the water, so I write to Sustrans. And I basically find their email address, and I ask for this information. As you can see there, it's about my favourite project, E-Move Cycle Scheme, which no one wants and no one really asks for. However, there it is. They've got about £1 million a bit quid for doing it, something like that. And I just ask these 3 simple questions, 4 questions should I say. It's not difficult. I also ask them how they spent some money. I then get a reply back. And it says, they're going to speak with the Cardiff office, right? So at that point I think, right, see what happens. And then it says it's coming to an end soon. Well, to be honest, that's incorrect because it got extended. Now they also say that I need to wait for some reports. Now I've got all of them reports already. So what you have to understand is these people, they will sort of mislead you by sort of not tell you the whole truth. Because this person, Callum, might not even know what he's doing. No idea. But either way, I know that's incorrect. So at that point, I then write to him and I make it really clear. I then say, as you can see there, please consider my request as a formal Freedom of Information request, right? July 28th. I then get a reply back, ooh, July 29th, right? And it makes it really clear, we are an independent charity. Now they're not a charity, they're a business, simple as that. This means we aren't subject to Freedom of Information requests. Now, to be honest, I expected this. In between that, what had happened is the 5 members of the Senate, not one of them had sent me the documents I'd asked for. Now, that tells me they're not going to help us. If you live in Mid Wales, they're not helping you, they're not interested. They don't want to help me because they think I'm a pain in the butt, but I'm okay with that, to be honest. So, we then get into this. So I then have to send off to somebody else in the Welsh Government saying, right, where's this information? To be honest, Welsh Government, people in there, they respond, they do stuff, they're actually trying to keep people happy. I have no issues with any of them at all. They're doing a good job, right? It's unfortunately the masters and the people in charge of them all. That must be a nightmare place to work, to be honest. I mean, having worked in some sort of organisations, I couldn't last 2 minutes. However, let me move on now. So I then send in this rather lengthy one, but I did find stuff out. So the first thing is, and I didn't know this, but there's legislation, section 74. And as you can see there, it's unique apparently. The Welsh relationship is indeed unique to the UK, it says. And it established section 74. And this section mandates Welsh ministers to create a scheme how they intend to promote the interests of relevant voluntary organisations. Right, and then it says here, section 34 going down to relevant organisation means bodies. Now, bearing in mind I'm a stupid person, don't know much, to me that now means they're part of, because it says underneath it means bodies other than local authorities or other public bodies, or activities are carried on otherwise than for profit. Now, for me, that's a little bit confusing, but the word it's in there with the legislation. So in my little world, I would say they now fall under the umbrella of working for the government. They're not independent, because they also get access to the ministers, right? And that's all in there, right? We then move on to the other bit, and third sector scheme document. And as you see, I've put on the top, blue arrow pointing to it. In my little world, this is their overreaching contract or terms and conditions with the Welsh Government and the Welsh people. And then, as I look through it, as you can see, I've put there, page 8, third sector, 2.8, it says here, they are accountable. Now they is the third sector, right? Has an obligation to represent the interests of its constituents. It is also acknowledged that the third sector operate within their principles which they are founded. They are accountable to their members and the individuals and communities with whom they work. Okay, in bold again, going to the bottom, as far as I'm concerned, that means me and anybody else. So if you live in the area, like for me, I live in Wales, therefore they're doing stuff all over Wales, they should be sending me the information. Now, I then sent that. No, they didn't reply. Of course they didn't reply. They won't reply, because if they reply, the standard operating procedure of a lot of organisations and government bodies is, let's not reply, let's see if the person gets on to us again, and if so, we'll just keep ignoring them. And then what happens, bit of a side issue, if you then push it, they will say, well, put in a formal complaint. That takes you down the rabbit hole. Right. So, this is what I've sent, nothing back. Now, bearing in mind, my 5 members of the Senate are not willing to help. They've made that really clear on umpteen occasions, but also on this one. So at that point, I then think to myself, right, I'll have a go at writing to the Charity Commission because of a charity. Okay. And this is their reply. Now, all these things take time because everybody wants to have a look at it. Now, I'll give you a little bit of a hint here. Is if you report something straight off but you've not asked the actual organisation the question you want to ask them, as in like send us the information, what you will see is that the organisation like Charity Commission will take you back to the beginning again. Oh, we can't do anything until you've asked them. So you have to follow their procedure. And remember, the procedure is a punishment for every single person who wants to challenge anything. So it then says here, they've looked at it, but as far as they're concerned, genuinely, the freedom of it does not apply to charities. Now, what I would argue there is that actually they're not a charity, they're part of a government now. So they come under what I would say is a public authority. So they then go on to, they reviewed the information that it shows any wrongdoing. So I can't really do anything now, but they do say what I must do is contact, I think they said it's the Information Commissioner's Officer. Right, so this is my next step now. So I've actually done that. So as you can see, 9th of October, I then wrote to them. Now, one of the big issues when you write to these sort of places, they always have an in-house form. And that's very difficult to either capture or record everything or to put the information on. I've had this before. So when you're dealing with something like this, which is quite long-winded and which involves quite a different pieces of legislation, you can't put it all in. However, the bit to understand is if you have made a new complaint, we're unlikely to look at it unless you have raised it with a responsible organisation. So remember, if nothing else, if you're complaining, complain directly to the organisation first, get a response, because you won't get one at that point. And that's why, suggestion, you need to put, if you don't respond by 14 days, I'll take it that you're not going to reply. That way you've given them a deadline. Right, so as you can see, that's now ongoing. We'll see what happens. Now, if anybody out there is a legal, have a look at the documents and tell me whether or not you think I'm right and possibly what the next steps could be. Right, thank you for watching. Hope you've not got bored or fallen asleep, or hopefully you've learned something. But again, as you can see, I am trying to hold people to account. But yes, I literally do feel like I'm hitting my head against a brick wall. However, let's keep them on the toes. Right, tick subscribe, thank you, and have a good wet day. Bye.